podcast joint with Ciara.
What the deal? This is T Money, and you are watching the T Money podcast joint with my co-host Ciara Ross.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Everything good, baby? How we doing today?
Man, you know, we Kit Kat cooling in these streets.
Here we
what's
go
up with you?
with the Kit Kat cooling again. That's becoming your slogan. Well, listen, today we have a great guest. I wanted just to be clear with you. This is my peoples right here. Speaking of peoples, great people come through, and they come through your lives, and then they inspire you for so many reasons, and their energy is infectious. So
yes.
the woman that I'm about to introduce to you now is a great person, man. She's done so much for this culture. It's ridiculous, and her ability to do the things that she does is just amazing, and her education as it relates to this business is on a level that it's hard to comprehend. But
she's truly phenomenal.
She's phenomenal. To sum it up, yes, phenomenal is a good word, right? So to sum it up, she's phenomenal, man. And I want to introduce you guys to the great and inspiring Martha Diaz.
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Martha. How are you, hon? How we doing?
I'm good. What's good?
Everything is lovely, man. I'm great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
My audience needs to know a lot about you. It's important that you're here. This is a hip hop show, and you have become a pillar of hip hop. And when I say become, we're gonna take you all the way back to Martha's beginning, so you'll understand her journey, why it's so important for her to be here today, why it means so much to me personally, and I'm not scared to say it. It means a lot to me personally, because this is sort of like, forget sort of, let's be clear. This is like my little sister right here.
Aww.
You feel me? Because, she came up, we'll get into that. Let's talk about her
all
beginnings
the
right
things
now.
that she's done and her accomplishments, accolades.
So Martha, speak to us in regards to your beginnings. Colombian, right? You're from New Jersey, correct? Right?
I read Patterson, New Jersey all day.
All Jersey.
Yes.
Although I was born in Hackensack.
Okay.
That's Jersey girl.
Yes.
Like Ciara's from
Jersey
Jersey.
girl.
Jersey
You know what I
girls.
mean? And talk to me about what led you to this culture, why you feel this culture is so important to you. Some of the things that, inspired you early on.
And what led to your hip hop education guidebook is so many different things. You're like an activist.
Right, yeah, she's so many things. We'll get to each one of those. We'll try, at least.
Okay.
But talk to me in regards to what inspired you from the beginning to be part of this. I mean, you could have been doing anything else. I mean, you're very intelligent. You graduated from, what school did you go to?
I went to Fairleigh
You
Dickinson.
went to Fairleigh Dickinson.
And then I
Then
did
you
two
grad school.
masters at NYU.
Yeah, listen to me. So we're not talking about a woman who's not intelligent. So you could have done anything. You could have been a doctor, a lawyer. You could have been anything, but you decided to
Be here with us today. Let's start with that.
Exactly.
That's right.
And you decided to put your energies into this culture. So speak to me about what inspired you to start being part of this, and why is it so important to you?
Well, I guess, being a first generation Colombian American without family members. I was the first one to be born here.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And I didn't have cousins, uncles, So I just one day discovered hip hop in the schoolyard when Rapper's Delight came out. So I might have been like 10, 11. And it just, it just captivated me. And hip hop became, or at least those people became, my surrogate family. And so my interest in hip hop was from that early age. But it wasn't until, well, actually, then I was a club kid.
Oh, you went to the clubs?
I was a club head, 14.
Jersey all day, club music.
So we're talking about Jersey clubs or New York City clubs?
New York City and Jersey. I was
Okay.
going to Newark. I was going, to Passaic. I was taking the bus.
You heard how she said that, right? No.
Right.
Yep. I was, going to the Tunnel and the World.
Right,
and,
right.
Red Zone.
Red Zone,
and,
right, right.
I was a club. And that's where I actually met Ed Lover. in the club, and I think I also met you in the club before I even landed my internship at Yo MTV Raps.
Oh, wow.
Now you guys see the lineage, right? You see
Yes.
where we've come from. So yes, and she worked at Yo MTV Raps with myself, Ed Lover, and Dr. Dre, the real Yo MTV Raps. Let's be clear on that.
Yes. And Fat Five Freddy.
I couldn't even get it out quick enough. Salute to my man, Fat Five Freddy.
Yes.
But yeah, so talk to us about what led you to MTV and
Yes.
why'd you choose Yo MTV Raps to be part of?
Well, it was my last semester, my last year at Fairleigh Dickinson, and I was in communications, and I was interested in TV and film production, and there was an opening in Viacom, and I applied, and I actually became the first student at Fairleigh Dickinson to get an internship at Viacom. So they even put it in the school newsletter. It was
Love
such a big
it.
deal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I hope you still have that school
I do.
newsletter.
That's dope.
I do.
Okay. I didn't
I'm
know
an
that.
archivist and collector, so of course you know I got it.
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
yes. And so I remember going to the interview. Jack Benson interviewed me. Penny Mack interviewed me.
These are Jack Benson and Penny Mack, are MTV directors and producers. They were a staple for the channel at the time, right?
Yes.
Right.
And
right.
then
Salute to both of them.
Yes.
They went on to great things.
Yes.
Right?
And then I met, of course, Ted Demi, who became my mentor.
And
And
one of the founders of Yo MTV Raps, right?
And
Yes.
this is why mentorship is very important. I cannot stress that
Yes.
enough.
It is so important. I did not know that Jack Benson was from Paterson, New Jersey. I did not know that Eugene Caldwell,
Okay.
even though he wasn't working there yet. We were in high school together.
Right.
And then
What school?
Passaic County Tech.
Okay.
So we went to Wayne. That was the first year where kids from Paterson were allowed to go to Wayne Tech, which was a vocational school. So Eugene and I went to school there. Jack was a senior, and we were like sophomores or freshmen. I didn't know Doug Herzog was from Paterson, New Jersey.
Now, see, you're teaching me something because I didn't know he was from there. I thought he was from the city.
No, he's
Well,
from
Jersey has produced some the finest, some
Yes.
of the elite.
Yes.
Don't forget it,
That's
y'all.
right.
Look it
Doug
up.
Herzog being an executive at Viacom at the time when we did Yo. Okay, I
Yes.
didn't know he was from New
Yeah,
Jersey.
so there were
Okay.
a lot of people from Paterson, and I think that had a lot to do with like, hey, this chick is from Paterson. Let's give her a chance. And Penny was she was the only woman on the team, and she and I became friends, and she mentored me as well. And once I started to learn the business of broadcasting, and getting really schooled about hip hop, and mind you, I didn't have cable. In Paterson, we didn't have cable. We were still in the early stages of the cable.
Well, you weren't
industry.
alone at that time.
Yeah,
a lot of
cable's a
people,
luxury.
A lot of people didn't have cable. I mean, honestly, before I got on MTV, I didn't have cable in my house. I used to watch UHF. Was it UHF channels or something?
Yes,
like that?
yes,
yeah.
yes.
You know what I?
2 to 4 to
Right,
7 to 9.
The networks,
And
13
listen, I
networks.
come from a time where TV would cut off at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
at the 10, 11 o'clock.
You know,
no.
you
And
would
the
see
Star
the US
Spangled Banner would play.
People don't know nothing about that right
Not
now,
at
bro.
all.
TV will actually cut off. It's like, wow, TV cut off, and all you would see is snow. Like,
Yep.
You know what I haven't forgotten about TV, and it's like my favorite pastime. I don't know if they still do it or not. They need to bring it back if they don't. It's 10 o'clock. Do you
Yes.
know where your
The
children are?
right.
Come on. That is a staple.
Yes.
Right.
And
So
it was
important.
letting you know it's time to go to bed.
Yes.
Right.
Subliminally.
Yes, and then in the Spanish channels, they would have a little dog that would sing "Muy buenas noches, hasta mañana." Este perrito se va a dormir.
I remember that.
And
I
everybody
remember
would
that.
wait for that.
I remember
so
that.
we could go to sleep. It was
Right.
around 10 o'clock.
Oh, the traditions.
Yeah, all gone. But that was our childhood, and we witnessed the evolution of television into cable, and working at Yo MTV Raps, I had the opportunity to be in a live studio with all the golden era hip hop artists, and with Fab we would go travel, and I was so green. I remember going to LA to shoot Dre in that famous
seeing in the truck. That was NWA in the truck, but
Yes.
there was something else he shot too.
That was at his crib, with the pool party.
Right. Oh yeah, well,
That was my first time.
We were there at the pool party too, and I got plenty of stories. You know, I actually have photos and receipts from that joint. So, but anyway, listen.
Yeah, well, it was crazy because it was LA. That was my first time going to LA. And I was like, okay, I don't know why I didn't think about it, but I went to the shoot with a wraparound jean skirt, a long sleeve shirt. So I was hot because it was like, because he lived in the desert.
Yeah, he lived way out in the valley
in
someplace.
the valley, right?
Yeah.
He lived out there, and it was like 100 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to shoot, and here are all these women in the pool with thongs.
Listen to me. Just keep it 100. They was naked. They was
Yes.
bucky naked, and they was doing that thing in the pool, man. I mean, they were doing
Yes.
things with Corona bottles I've never seen before.
I didn't see that, but maybe that's because
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Your Honor Officer, I was not
Yeah.
there.
I'm
I
just
don't know
trying to
nothing
tell
about it.
I'm telling you.
I was so hot. I needed to cool off somewhere,
Right.
so I ended up hanging out with Snoop and Corrupt. They were playing video games
Right.
up in the room, and I just stayed there because I was out of place.
Wow.
But
Okay.
but that was my
Your experience.
my first time in LA, and again, just Yo MTV Raps taught me so much about history, about community, about expressing yourself. You know, because Yo MTV Raps highlighted a lot of the hip hop MCs, but we also met a lot of graffiti artists, and of course the DJ, and then the breakers, and so it was the holistic view of hip hop culture, and that's what made an impact in my life so much that I felt like I belonged. I felt like I could contribute, and of course the fifth element of hip hop, which at that time I was going to Zulu Nation meetings because Bambaataa was dropping the knowledge. I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn everything about hip hop, and I'm gonna teach it, and I'm gonna produce. And I don't know if you remember, but I had pitched to MTV a global hip hop show.
I think you mentioned it to me before. Yes, you did.
And they said, well, MTV's not really into it. Let's see if Latin America would want it. So then they gave me $5,000 to do a global hip hop show. And I had interviewed Crazy Legs and Rocksteady Crew, Cypress Hill, K7. Do you remember
Yeah,
K7?
K7, of course.
Yes. And what's that group? It was CNC Music Factory.
Right, yeah.
The guys,
Freedom.
no, but the guys that dance with them, with George Lamond. And anyway,
Right.
I packaged it, and then Latin America, MTV Latino was like, nobody cares for hip hop.
Wow.
I was so mad. I was like, you know what? I'm leaving this industry. And actually, I left with Ted Demi to Hollywood.
Right.
And we worked on Who's the Man.
That's right.
Remember-
Who's the Man? The movie starring Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, and co-starring myself,
Yes.
and so many other hip hop.
52
people.
other artists.
Yeah, so many. And we actually, that movie in itself set the standard for movies like that thereafter. Like there was no other movie before that had so many hip hop stars and stars of that ilk. And then thereafter, you know, movies, they just started doing movies just like that, you know, which is great. So salute to Ted Demi, by the way.
Yes.
Clap to Ted Demi, clap to MTV, Yo MTV Raps.
Well, I was his assistant for that movie, and I was working with Jackie Brown Carmen, who was the casting director, and she let me cast all the rappers. So I was the one who reached out to all those rappers.
Tupac and
All of them,
Ice-T.
52. Tupac wasn't in it.
Tupac was there.
He
Tupac was on
there.
the set with us.
He came
hanging
to
out with
visit.
us.
He came to visit.
Trust me, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the movie.
No, he wasn't in the movie.
Because he was
no.
doing Juice.
Right. So he
was
couldn't do
working on-
both.
He
right.
couldn't.
He couldn't do it.
Stretch and everybody was there.
Yeah, of course.
After that, and I was also in the movie.
What? Check you out.
I was in the
girlfriend.
movie. I was thrown in the fashion show
Yeah,
scene.
I remember.
Love it.
And I also did a voiceover intro. Where I'm talking to my boo in jail, and I'm like, I'm keeping it tight, baby, or something like that. It was just like Ted Demi would make me do all kinds. He would push me to learn and get uncomfortable. I learned how to read scripts. I learned how to create budgets. He had me in casting calls. He had me. I would be his right hand woman, right, throughout his career, until I got pregnant and I dropped out of Hollywood. But I was sick of Hollywood because I just felt like they weren't portraying the culture. And then MTV changed.
Right.
And so I decided to take my skills and go back into the community and document the history.
Now, before you move any further, I just don't want to pass something that you touched on. You mentioned how tenacious you are and were at the time before getting pregnant, of course. And you touched on how much hard work it took. Just want to fast forward today with social media. Social media makes everything look like you can just wake up and it appears. Things take time and you have to work hard. Could you touch on a little bit about, I guess, do you think today's artists or people who want to do what you do, are they at an advantage now because they have social media in front of them? Or do you think it's a disadvantage because it teaches them not proper work ethics, if I'm saying that correctly?
It all depends on the person, right? I think there are people who would take advantage of YouTube videos and create a car, if they wanted to. And there are people who will just use it for entertainment. I was watching a video, Angie Martinez interviewing Coyle Ray. And her work ethic, that young lady's work ethic, is like what we were experiencing, 20-hour days on a set. Travel, with backpacks and just do whatever. You need me to go get coffee? Okay, I'll be right back.
Yep.
Okay, you need me to clean this? We did everything. And we were not afraid to get our hands dirty.
Yep.
So to Ciara's point, though, this is interesting. So you have to ask yourself now: is there a place for the hard worker? Because to her point, the internet is making it easy for anybody. If you want to just do something, you can do it. It's sort of like just add water and stir kind of deal. You don't have to, I can harken back to a time where I worked really hard just to get this far. Hanging up posters, in the snow. Myself and the members of Public Enemy, we used to do concerts, and myself and Dre used to do all these things. And we got notoriety through a radio station that was at a college in Long Island that nobody even heard of, right? All because we did all the hard work. There was no internet at the time, so you're doing promotions via all your hard work. You're going out to everybody and just letting them know what's going on, and you're using the broadcast capabilities of the radio station to get your message out. So the question I'm asking is, do you think that there's still a place for people to actually to grind and actually hard work over a long period of time? Because it's reflective in the music to a degree. Because I remember Jadakiss saying that people don't really care for bars anymore. Bars take certain level of skill, a certain level of
that you have to think.
Writing,
you have
a
to
certain
think.
level of thinking, and putting together metaphor, and to do a song without that, it's to a degree it's a lot easier. But then there's an argument for that. You could say, well, you don't know my audience. My audience,
right?
And if I asked you to do that, you couldn't do it, right?
Right.
So there's two sides to this. Right. So so tell me what you think as it relates to the hard work.
Again, I think everybody has their own pathway, right? I think what I've learned is that working harder doesn't necessarily mean that you're more effective, right? Or that you're going to get farther.
Harder, not smarter, right?
So I think now those are tools that we can use to get more things done quicker. I think the quality control is it depends on your audience, right?
Exactly.
And what the message is. Like I said, there are people who have become filmmakers online, just learning online. They don't have to even go to college anymore. And actually we're working on apprenticeship programs to skip college altogether and go straight to jobs with hands-on learning, like right there. Like, you want to learn filmmaking? Okay, grab a camera. And so I think it's just a different methodology, and we have to adjust to that type of learning, right? Now, what's been a problem is the platform. Right, so you have
Absolutely.
you have great people
Absolutely.
doing hard work, but they can't actually get anything on a platform. They can't get anything on a BET or MTV anymore
because it has a lot to do with these platforms still thinking like dinosaurs.
Yes.
They're not progressive. They don't, and it has a lot to do with. Look, I equate that to this. A lot of people in these positions, first off, they're not educated enough to make any intelligent decisions in regards to what they think will be successful.
Yep.
Secondly, their very existence at the platform is based on performance.
Yes.
Now, if they sign me, they sign you, they sign Ciara, they sign the whole TV, they sign the whole conglomerate of people, right? If only 5% of those people are successful, they're fired, right? So, it's about job security at some point, right? So this is what you constantly run into. Have you ever been to one of those meetings and you go into the meeting and you speak to the guy who can actually write the check, right? A lot of times you don't speak to that person. And if you do, he defers to someone that he thinks might know exactly whether or not this is something worthwhile, right? So you run into that kind of energy, all the time.
All the time. The gatekeepers, let's keep it real.
Right.
Yeah.
There are gatekeepers who are only interested in staying in that position, that power position. They put on their boys mostly because women, it's hard for us to even get in the door. And if we get in the door, we're not paid the same. And we're put through this hazing, where they want us to quit.
Right.
Absolutely.
So let's get into that too, because that right there, and maybe Ciara, you can chime in.
Absolutely.
Like the landscape as it relates to that is being challenged daily in Hollywood, on social media, just generally as it relates to women working. Period. Getting equal pay, which is ridiculous due to the fact that women are so powerful now. As it relates to business, they're doing great things, such as yourself, which we will get into in a minute because you wear so many hats. I mean, community organizer, media producer, social entrepreneur. Your list is endless. As a matter of fact, you should wear a cape and put all your things on the back of it, right? So my thing is like, where now is the issue? The world sees that women are extremely powerful. Right? They're smart, right? Their entrepreneurial energy is off the chart, right? They've been successful,
But the dynamics change. Let's just say what it is. At the end of the day, some women have forgotten exactly what you said, and now what's pushed is sexualization.
The hoochie mentality? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Oh,
so
okay.
At the end of the day, we have a choice. You have a choice. You have a choice whether you're going to work hard, stay up, do your research, and be prepared for the next day. So when you come in, you don't have to subject yourself to that. For instance, I work very hard, and I'm serious about my craft. Like Erykah Badu said, don't play with my ish.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that way, when you come, you're firm and you're standing what you got going on. However, when you're flimsy and you don't know yourself, now you have someone coming in and say, maybe you should, da-da-da. And now you're running around here going, ski. You don't even know what that means. You just know that they told you if you do this, it may do that. And now think about it. When hip hop started, we'll even say through the whole 90s, it meant something. Women, most of the women had a message about sticking together or doing something with something. Today, everything is, this is wet, whop that, don't cook this, actually punctuation, complete sentences, everyone is naked, and 90% of these women who are rapping about this are single mothers. So I don't understand. And then when you address the fact that you're a single mother and you're singing about all of this WAP that's going on with no structure, then you turn around and if someone make a comment to say, hey, why don't you try being domestic? Or why don't you try raising your child, or your child shouldn't be on social media? Now that person is pretty much canceled.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, women need to decide get down and lay down. Figure out what
Right.
you're trying to do,
Right.
and then stick to it.
Right.
And I think this is why you have been had such longevity, because you know who you are. You've seen it from the beginning, and now you're seeing what is going on now. And it's like, I have your mother, and you're like, you know what? Let me now send an education about hip hop and understand where it came from to where it's going now. And honestly, in my opinion, for women, it's basura. Did I say that right?
Yes, basura. Well, you know, the thing is, I go back to the platforms, right? And remember, there used to be real A&R back
Yeah.
in the day,
course.
right?
Yeah.
And where they would really groom
Artist
you.
development too.
Right.
Yeah.
They did away with that artist development. There is
Oh, no,
such
there's
thing.
development.
Right.
It's just not artists.
Right. And so we have to really look at who owns the labels, why, you know, how are they giving back to the community? And we're not really being critical, because we know that there are only 3-4 conglomerates that own all of the radio stations, all of the television stations. And so we have to have our own platforms. And when we do, we can't be like the oppressor, oppressing our own people, which has happened. And unfortunately, we have to blame the men, because the men have been the one in charge.
Please say that again.
We have to blame the men, because the men have been in charge. And now it's time for that energy to go.
Absolutely.
The God
Well, the
is
negative. It's time for the bad energy
Yeah,
to go,
the
not
bad-
the men.
No.
Well, it
No.
takes actually the men, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because not for nothing, men, at the end of the day, you guys play such a solid part in a lot of things that women do. And no one's leading. You have a conversation with today's men, you ask them, what's the ambition? I don't know. It's like, okay, how am I supposed to follow? You guys want someone to, you know, listen and submit and things, all of that stuff. But I don't see a vision. And then on top of that, I can speak to several different family members, friends, offline and personally, and they'll tell me, I'm tired of seeing all of these girls on Instagram naked. I'm have to delete them. Everyone's on OnlyFans. This is not right. So then I say to them, well, when you men are in round tables or at the bar or doing it, are you guys saying this? Are you guys talking to women and saying, listen, I'm actually tired of seeing you guys naked? No, you're not.
First of all, there's no man on this planet going to tell you he's tired of seeing a woman naked. Let's be clear. Secondly, what you see now is a result of one of them being successful. Because we're in a copycat industry.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
If a stripper, can go out, get her a record deal, and make millions upon millions of dollars and be beloved by everyone in hip hop culture, the next platform is going to look for the same person. I mean, it's been happening since the days of Frankie Lyman, even back beyond that.
Yeah.
Can you fit the suit, my man?
Yeah.
You understand? What size do you wear?
Yeah.
Right? It's the same philosophy.
And it's
you understand?
Right.
So, and to your point, Martha, like that energy needs to be eradicated in some way, because that in itself is just, honestly, it hasn't been throughout hip hop history, because
No.
the
And
golden
that's what I was
era,
gonna say.
the golden era was so dope. You know why it was dope? When me and Dre were on Def Jam, and we had groups coming out every other week, because everybody was diverse. Nobody was the same.
Correct.
My group original concept was totally different than a Rakim, than a Big Daddy Kane, than a Public Enemy. It was
Or
all
Tribe.
tribe. Everybody had their own thing.
Yep.
Right.
Now it's cookie cutter. It's like, oh, if you can't be this person, I'll find somebody else to do it, because that's what sells. You
And
know?
my only question to everyone who decides to make that choice is no knock against you, but how often do you cry at night? Because at the end of the day, you can always turn this on, but the minute that you turn it off, these people are not happy.
Yeah.
So this has gone beyond selling your soul now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's only so much makeup you're going to put on to try to cover all of the scars that you're taking. And like you said, you've seen it from the beginning. Can you imagine if you were 18 now going into hip hop now? You lose your mind, child.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that trip to LA that I mentioned earlier, that was the moment that I was like, hip hop is different. is completely different. And now when you see Too Short be mainstream when he was underground,
Oh, no question. Yeah.
we flipped. And so I think there's also, it's very important to say that hip hop did not start misogyny or objectification of women. You know, it's a patriarchal society, right? It's the porn industry. It's all of that culminated
that
into
existed
this point.
before hip hop in itself.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that these are all issues that we need to kind of look at again holistically, because there are many factors playing a role in the demise of hip hop.
There's so many things,
and
man.
because
Right.
the power of hip hop to unite us, right, is so much that the powers that be don't want us to come together, and that's where, you know, someone like KRS-One will tell you that, oh, thank you, Grammy, you
Yep.
now notice us, okay,
Of course.
you know,
Right.
but and we have to be smarter. We have to be like, these corporations are using us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so and of course not all of the women are trash.
No.
You know, like I love Rhapsody.
Yes.
You know, I love Tierra Whack.
Yes.
I even like Cash Doll.
No doubt.
You
No
know,
doubt.
like
No doubt.
there's a lot of diversity, but not a lot of women are on, you know, the
A conscious level.
right, and they don't have the platforms. Again, platforms. I'm glad that you have a platform because you can interview people.
It was very important for me to get a voice and have this platform, Martha, as you well know, because I've had it for so long when I was on television. So I thought that this would be a great place for me to sit and, you know, interview people like yourself. So, but our topic of discussion kind of leads me into the next phase of your career. We're talking about the Hip Hop Education Center as a whole.
Yes.
Something like this is a hip hop education center topic, you know,
Yes.
because what we're discussing is not just about the music culture. This is a bigger picture, you know. It's about fandom. It's about sales, you know, monetary compensation. It's about a whole generation of youth that are interested in seeing that now because they think that's cool.
Right.
You understand? It's very difficult for you to actually change that mindset, you know. But you can do it with, you know, with a little uniformity and everybody working together. You understand?
Yes.
So talk to me a little about the, you know, the Hip Hop Education Center. You're the CEO. Now you're the big cheese. You know, you're doing your thing. You know what I mean? So I love the concept itself. I know before we get into that, though, baby, we can go back a little bit. I know you were working with the Universal Hip Hop Museum. You were working with Rocky. Salute to them. You know, they're doing a good thing over there in the Bronx. And I can't wait to see my face. You know,
Side plug.
you know what I mean? Big plug, right? Dong, dong, you know, in the museum. But talk to us a little about how you curated at the museum and you worked directly with the museum.
Yes,
getting artifacts.
I have been working with Paradise Gray and Pete Nice.
Yeah, they were guests on our show.
Yes.
Yeah, salute to them. You know.
I think before I talk about that,
Yeah,
I want to talk about the evolution because I think it's important for people to know that this is like Martha 5.0, right?
Okay.
Like I went through different iterations.
Oh,
I've been
right.
still finding my place. As a filmmaker, I left Hollywood and decided to go back to the community, and I used media literacy as my entry point. And I was teaching as a substitute teacher, and then I just liked teaching, and actually I was teaching at my children's school just to keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
right.
Because, you know, I don't know if you remember, but they were living in Colombia.
Right.
And so they would come here on vacation, and I
Right.
would put them in school so they could learn English. And then I would pay attention, you know, follow them so they wouldn't get into trouble. But after a while, I kept filmmaking. I kept documenting the culture. I kept traveling around the world, and the RZA actually executive produced my first documentary.
That is correct. He did. Yeah.
And so after that, I started to showcase my film in different film festivals. and there was this one film festival that told me they were gonna add me to their lineup. They sent me an email saying, we love it. They called me, we love it. And then I got a letter of rejection.
Oh.
How does that work?
I know. And then I called them and cursed them out. And they were like, oh, well, you know, there was another film that was like.
That's all politics.
Yes.
That's
and
the politics.
Again, right.
Don't sit there and tell me, okay, you love it, you're going to add it, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And then, you know, when it's ground zero, no time left on the clock. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, that's you know, you already know it's BS at that point. But it's what it is.
And you know, of course, all the people in charge were men.
Of course.
And so they didn't care. So I said, okay, I don't care either. You know, I'm going to start my own hip hop film festival. So no other filmmaker needs to go through this again. And I started the H2O International Hip Hop Film Festival, the first.
Let's be clear.
The
first right.
film festival of its kind. It
Congratulations.
Thank you. We used to call it H2O for Hip Hop Odyssey. And I started that in 2002. And that's when I became a community organizer. I started calling filmmakers. I started calling my connects in the industry, right? Because there is a difference between the industry and the culture, right?
Yep.
So, but we need each other,
Absolutely.
right? And so everyone agreed, and we created an amazing film festival. And I was the first one to really say, you know, we got to honor our pioneers. Because we wouldn't be here without them. So I remember honoring Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa and Charlie Ahern and Henry Chalfant and Martha Cooper, all the people who were there in the beginning.
So let me ask you a question in regards to that, because a lot of the new, not everybody. Okay, let me take it back. A lot of the artists that come into the industry now, the younger artists, don't have the same reflection as you did. See how you just made mention of the fact that you should honor the pioneers of
But
this music.
that's because
they dismiss.
I know the history.
But see, my thing is, any new artist that comes in, if you pick up a microphone, I mean, this is from my perspective, and you can tell me. I mean, you have enough music history to tell me that you're bugging. But if you pick up a microphone and you writing rhymes, first of all, you're writing rhymes. You're putting rhythmic poetry to a song, right? You're a rapper now, right? And you're doing a song, right? So you now, when you create a song and you do a record, you become a professional. As a professional, you should know the history of what you're doing. Just like if you're a baseball player, do you know who Babe Ruth is?
Yes.
Just like you're a basketball player, do you know who Julius Erving or Michael Jordan is? You should know.
Or
You should
even
know
Dre.
who the hell Bambaataa, Kool Herc, you know, Grandmaster Caz, Flash, the Furious Five. You
Cold
should know.
Crush.
You should know your history. And with that being said, you should
Sha-Rock.
respect. Salute to Ciara, and you should respect it to a degree. But this is not the case because it's not being taught.
No.
But
And that's
also, no one cares. A lot of
Right.
people don't care.
Well, because it's not being taught. It should be. It should be.
it's
a
not
level
being
of-
taught, and people don't have mentors. Mentorship
Yeah.
is so critical.
Right.
And so,
Well,
no.
you're a product of that.
Yeah.
Obviously. Right.
So because I know this history, I value it.
Right.
And so that's what gave me my purpose, that I was like, okay, I'm going to preserve it and I'm going to teach it. And so while I was doing the film festival and substituting, I decided to create a hip hop education summit. And this came about because I was bringing hip hop into the classroom. Bringing old magazines and cassettes and CDs, and the kids were like, they'd never seen a cassette because we were already moved on to CDs.
Yeah.
And so everybody loved my class, and even the principal was like, "What are you doing?" So I felt like I was doing something special, and I wanted to know who else was doing it. So together with this sister named Trisha Wang,
Right. Trisha Roman,
yes,
right.
we decided to create this summit and put a call out. Let's see who comes to the Bronx Museum to talk about hip hop education. And would you know that 20 people from across the country, 20 to 30 people came, and we had a conversation, and that led me to think, okay, this hip hop education thing is serious. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna use media. I'm gonna use the archives, right, with all the artifacts. and I'm going to formalize it. But I still didn't know, because I didn't go to school for community organizing. I didn't go to school to have a nonprofit. So I had to learn how to create a nonprofit. So I created the Hip Hop Association first. But that model just didn't work, because everything landed on me. I was doing everything, all the work, and I got burnt out. I was like, damn, I can't do this. So
Well, it happens when you have the vision yourself, and a lot of people don't see it.
Yeah.
They don't see that vision. They have no idea.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You have to wind up, it's sort of like you have to create the mountain, then they'll come.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's taxing on you.
Yep.
You know, I was trying to get a publisher to publish a book on hip hop education. Nobody wanted it. So then I said, okay, I'm going to self-publish. And that's my entrepreneurial spirit. And I said, okay. And so here it is, y'all. This is published in 2007.
I love it.
Hip Hop Education Guidebook. That's volume 1, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And this, this book, so many teachers thank me for this book, and scholars. As a matter of fact, like, everybody who gets this book, they're like, wow, why don't we have this in schools? Why don't, And so,
where can the audience get
it's
the
on
book?
Amazon. It's actually very few copies left.
That's my copy, by the way.
This
Just
is
want
your
you to know.
copy.
That's my copy.
See how
She
they
gave it
do
to
me?
me.
I'll get you one.
Thank you.
I'll get you one. But, that's when I realized, okay, I need to go back to school.
Oh,
And
really?
at almost 40 years old,
It's different.
I go back to school at NYU, and I learn about social entrepreneurship.
Salute to NYU, my alma mater, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with a class on archiving. And because I had stopped the film festival, but I kept all 440 films. And by the way, I've moved over 30 times. So I've carried those films everywhere.
As you should now.
Yes. And so when I was building value to our community, I knew that these assets needed to be cataloged and archived.
Right.
And so I did that, and I took an independent course, and then with Mona Jimenez, shout out to Mona Jimenez, my professor, and she taught me the basics, but I wanted to know more. And so I went back and did a second master's at the Tisch School, and I became the first officially trained hip hop archivist.
Nice.
And I say that because I'm the first one from the culture to say I'm going to become an archivist for the culture.
You're the
love it.
first hip hop, first woman, first Colombian, first Jersey probably.
Yep.
Wow.
Told you.
Number one, numero uno.
A lot of
Jersey, you on the map.
That's right, baby. That's what I'm talking about, man. Education, drive, and desire.
yes.
Well, I had a chance to look through the book. It's phenomenal. It truly is. It's very informative. There is quizzes, Q&As. Very, very interesting. It's an easy read, by the way, too. So if you have a love for hip hop, definitely check it out.
You know, when I came up as a kid, I'm a DJ by trade. That's how I started. Myself and my partner, Dr. Dre. Salute to the East Coast Dr. Dre.
Yes.
By the way. And we used
Clarify
to do
that.
we used to do because sometimes people you have no
I
idea.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I know. They don't know. Everybody mama named them the same thing at the same time.
Just so to be clear, the UMTV Raps Dr. Dre is Andre Brown.
Yes.
The NWA Dr. Dre is Andre Young. But they're both Dr.
And
Dre.
the doctors are spelled differently.
Yeah, DOCTOR is right. Dr. Dre, UMTV Raps, and DRE. Yeah. Right. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. My point was.
But that's education.
Right.
Drop it.
But my point was, as I was coming up, you'd be surprised how far has hip hop come? We used to DJ events, right, and nobody even wanted to hear hip hop music. That's when Run DMC was killing it, right? We're talking 85, Suck MCs, Run DMC. We were on tour with them, packed arenas, but people still would just turn their back to hip hop. They never thought hip hop would be anything, and till this day, it's the number one form of music, right?
Yes.
The culture that's changing the world, right?
And I bet it has been for a long time. They
They just gave it up now.
Yeah.
It's been for quite some time,
Yeah.
way before they started ranking it, because that's
right.
a joke.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's some kind of joke. So you become number one.
Right,
And
with
then-
archiving. So that idea of the Hip Hop Association, that nonprofit,
Right.
I needed to redo it and restructure it. And so I created the Hip Hop Education Center because I realized that we needed research. A lot of the funders in the foundation world, the charity world, philanthropy world, they need results. They need to make sure that their money is making an impact. And we didn't have that. And just like the industry, the education sector also has gatekeepers. There's only a few nonprofits that get all the money. And I saw that and I was like, wait. We need to do a survey, a scan to find out more. So I started doing a lot of research, and shout out to Dr. Pedro Noguera, who was my mentor, a scholar, sociologist who he's been doing education reform for a long time. And he was like, we need to know, because he was calling it urban education.
Which is not
And I was like,
exactly
call
what
it hip hop.
is.
I said, call it hip hop. He's like, well, there's no evidence. Give me some evidence. And together we created a scan, and we identified over 300 programs in schools, after schools, in correctional facilities, in religious communities, in summer camps, and that's when I was like, oh, we need to map this out. We need to, and so the organization that I have today is building on what I had before, but it's more effective, right? And now archiving is important because we need evidence to show that kids are learning, and in order to pass on the history, we need to show them, like, look, this is what we did. This is the flyer we did in the 70s. This is the flyer we did in the 80s, the 90s. And look what you're doing now. You're doing electric, online, virtual flyers.
Right.
You're doing
Exactly.
holograms, So that's the way you teach.
Right.
And so with that, I also been thinking a lot about archiving and how do you teach young people, because I tell them, you're making history right now.
Yep.
And so you need to save all these things. And now we have all these disasters. You got to make sure your photo albums are secure, and and so I've been doing a lot of community workshops. I'm building an apprenticeship program with Arts to Work to teach digital archiving and curation, because kids are already curating
Right.
with their social media platforms, but they don't know how to do it purposefully, right? And some do. Some are very good at it. But imagine if they got the guidance, the mentorship to do
structure.
even more, right? And so I started working with Rocky and the museum back in, I want to say, 2008, maybe 2010. What year are we? 2024.
24.
So maybe it was like, no, that's too far back. So maybe it was like 2014. Like,
Okay.
when he had, I think he's 12 years in already, but like 2 years into his development process, they reached out to me because of my educational work, but also the archiving. And so in 2013, I did a symposium at the Schomburg Center where I invited 25 institutions that collected hip hop and 25 collectors. So Bill Adler was one of them. He was the press, the publicist for Def Jam,
Yep.
who kept everything and had triple copies of everything. I had Joe Conzo there. I had Paradise Gray there. And I had institutions like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Smithsonian and Cornell University's Hip Hop Archive. They were my partners. And we just wanted to have a conversation. Like, you're starting to collect hip hop. We want to know, what's your process? How do you appraise something when you don't even know
What it is.
us,
Yeah.
right?
You don't even know the culture.
You don't know the culture, right? How do you work with the community? How do you curate? And instead of getting pushback, they gladly told us everything. They were waiting for that moment.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a lot of the collectors were able to donate their collections to some of these institutions.
Nice.
So it was
great.
a really great moment. And then with the museum, I started working with them and just helping them develop their digital asset management system, which is a fancy word for database. And I helped them archive up around 3,000 items. Right now they have about 25,000 items or
That's a
more.
lot.
Amazing.
That's a lot.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
with together
Right.
with Pete in Paradise, I've curated at least 5 exhibits with them.
Right.
I love it. Yeah,
It's
they
still-
just had their hip hop pop-up shop or something of that nature going around.
They're still
The
waiting.
travel exhibit.
They're
Yeah,
still
travel
waiting.
exhibit.
They're still waiting for us to give them stuff.
Right.
I have
Right.
the stuff for them.
And
but-
that's the other thing that I did. I introduced them, connected them, and reintroduced them, to people that have collections. And so it's been great. I want the museum to open. In 2019, when we first launched, 3 other museums, hip hop museums.
yeah, there's one in D.C. and
the
there's
National Hip Hop
National-
Museum in D.C.,
And where's the other one?
the Museum of Graffiti,
Graffiti
in Miami,
right.
and the other one.
I don't know. I think one is going to be here.
No, we're not counting ours.
Oh,
There's
okay.
another one.
Yeah, the South African Hip Hop Museum.
I didn't
Oh, I
anything.
didn't know about that.
Oh, you just put me on to something. Okay.
4 museums opened in 2019.
That's why Rocky changed the name recently? Didn't he change the name from the Universal Hip Hop Museum to the Hip
I
Hop
don't know.
Museum?
You need to ask him
I
about
think he
that.
did. I think he
I
did
don't.
that.
I don't think he did it because of that. I mean,
I don't know why he changed the name.
Well,
but
speaking of the Hip Hop Museum, before we let you go, what would be one of the, I guess, things that you would like a visitor to actually take from visiting the museum?
well, visiting any hip hop museum, because now there are museums in Detroit and Oakland that are being formed, and even in Atlanta and other places. There are collections everywhere. And you can actually go to Brazil and Germany. And I mean, it really is growing so fast. That one symposium that we had, I had a second time right before the pandemic, 2020. So we went from 50 to 125 in 7 years. And now it's probably tripled again. So whenever you are teaching hip hop or you want to be part of hip hop, you need to go visit these museums and learn the history. There's so much, you can learn. I mean, from social justice movements that we've been part of, to the clothes that we make, the trends that we create, to, the connections to our ancestors,
Absolutely.
right? You can trace all of the elements to hip hop back to Africa, South America, Asia, to all the continents, because we're a sampling culture. This idea that only, African Americans or Black people were the ones that created hip hop is, a misnomer, because of course we were there too. Latinos were there, and so were white people, Europeans. They were all there. Now, of course, did the Black people excel or not excel? Yeah, excel would be a good word, because
the founding fathers of hip hop are African American, but Latinos were definitely part of the
Yes.
original, because they were there.
yes,
As
and
breakdancers,
contributed.
as DJs, as they were there 100%. And I
Yes.
think Charlie Chase speaks about that a lot. How he was, and Crazy Legs and all them.
Yes.
They have that conversation in regards to how Latinos were
Yes,
part of that, and I can concur, because they were
Yes.
definitely part of
Yes.
early hip hop,
and this
without
goes
question.
Wiz and all
Yeah.
of there were a lot of us there, and even before the elements were all together, the graffiti element was his own thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and they mostly, again, Latinos were there too,
question.
and so I think what I meant by excel is that they were obviously, I don't want to say more talented, because that, of course, my Latino brothers and sisters would kick my ass for saying that, but they had more
They were
influential.
no, I think.
I mean, that to me,
I
that's
tend to believe-
appropriate.
I tend to
right?
believe at that time there were just more African Americans that were part of it
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they got noticed more.
right.
That's kind of
They
Yeah.
were, but they were both part of it.
You know, also too, more than 3 of us were looked at as a gang. So when you think about it, if it was a bunch, of course they're gonna get more attention. I mean, I'm just calling a spade when you think about it logically.
Yes.
So
Yes, and a lot of people don't know that there are, dark-skinned Latinos and there are light-skinned Latinos. There are indigenous-looking Latinos. And so you wouldn't notice who's what if we're all bunched together.
That's right.
Pretty much.
Until they start speaking.
Yes.
Right.
And that's show that we are all equal. We should all show each other respect and each one teach one.
That's right.
Miss.
Wait, there's one more thing. There's one more thing.
Yeah, please,
the big thing is the Lincoln Center event that's coming up.
Let's talk about that, please.
And so with my archiving, I specialize in education and women in hip hop because we need our own archive. And so one of my favorite items that I have in our collection is Cindy Campbell's library card
Oh, wow. How cool is
from
that?
the 70s.
Yeah.
Cindy Campbell, Kool Herc's sister, who threw the party, the infamous party that everyone talks about.
One for Cindy, it wouldn't have happened.
Yes.
Well, she was influential in doing it. I mean,
Well,
people-
that's again keeping it real, right? That's an arbitrary date, right? That they've chosen. But,
Oh, yeah, right.
Right, because
We're discussing that.
Herc was already
DJing and doing
way
it.
before that.
Right.
So, but that was the infamous party that everybody now.
That's a debatable conversation. I'm
yeah.
quite sure. Yeah, but
Yes.
we're talking about.
So we
I
got to do
think
that on part 2.
it's
Yes.
because it's based on the fact that they were talking about this one particular event at the housing.
Yeah, the
project.
rec room.
Right, the rec room. That one particular event, but Herc was already DJing.
He was already DJing.
Getting all this music, and he was dropping beats from Jamaica, and
And there were other DJs before Herc.
oh yeah, no
hip hop
question.
DJs.
Of course.
Right? So he's not really the original, but that's for other people to debate. I wanted to create an archive for women in hip
This
hop.
is why we're here talking.
Yes.
We can talk about that.
And what's
more.
going on in Lincoln Center?
And so last year, hip hop's 50th, there weren't a lot of tributes to women in hip hop.
There weren't a lot of tributes to anybody outside of New York City, period. So we can go on with that for days. I mean, that's been the debate,
Yes.
So and I can concur. There weren't a lot of. I mean, there should have been more. I mean, I think it should have been handled like Woodstock, and everybody that was ever part of the music should have been part of it. There should have been days where it was just West Coast artists. There should have been days where it was artists from Detroit or wherever, the Midwest.
And
or
all
Florida.
the elements should have been represented.
All 5 elements. It should have been graffiti art, breakdancing, everything. Fashion. It should have been everything. It could have been a big deal because they had the space, they had the time, they had the money. But again,
Yeah. But
a debatable conversation. We're not talking about that. We're talking about.
But this year we're going to rectify that, right?
Okay. Yes, of
and
course,
we're going to really pay these women give them their flowers and pay tribute to their achievements and their contributions. And so the Hip Hop Education Center teamed up with Lincoln Center for a 3-part symposium because it's impossible to do everything in one day. It's just too much. And so we're going to start the first one April 5th, and too soon we'll make a big announcement. And it's not going to start with the music videos or like performances that are like with the big names. We're going to address the elephant in the room,
Yeah, we're the founding fathers of the female side. On the female side, right.
Exactly. We're going to address the erasure and the issues around mentorship and the issues around being the first and disrupting, the norm, exactly. And we're going to have people, there's a panel called Blow the Whistle, Culture Shifting Women, who have spoken up against misogyny. Dr. Rachel Ramis is going to be the moderator. We have Kim Osorio. We have Sherry Sher from the Mercedes Ladies. We have Elizabeth Mendez-Berry.
Salute to Sherry Sher. She was a guest on our show,
She
too.
was.
Yes, she was. Yeah.
And we even have Juana from JJ Fad.
Oh, wow. How cool is that?
Yes. Yeah. So we're going to have deep conversations, and this is just the first one. The second one will be in the fall, and the third one next year. In the fall, we're going to talk about, sex and drugs and rap and roll.
Okay.
And motherhood and intergenerational legacy.
Right.
You got Spinderella, who's you know, with her daughter DJing now. You got other artists that are doing the same thing with their children. And then next year, we're really going to put the young women at the forefront and help them usher wave 4 of hip hop feminism. And so I'm excited about this.
So am I.
And,
Should be.
So am
Should
I.
be. Where can the followers find you?
hiphopeducation.org is our website, and our Instagram is Hip Hop Education Center.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
very
being here,
Oh, and then
Martha.
you'll be joining our advisory board
Yes,
too.
I am. I will be on the Hip Hop Education Center Advisory Board. Thank you, Martha.
Nice.
Thank you.
I
Congratulations.
so am excited about being part of it, and I can't wait to start jumping in feet first. Actually, so let's do what we got to do.
Yes,
man. You
that's
know what I mean?
right.
Well,
You know what I mean?
salute to you, young lady, and everything that you do. Continue to spread the knowledge, keep the integrity of our culture that we loved, and thank you for thank you for all your contributions. You are truly, truly amazing. You're very humble,
you.
and it is an honor.
Thank you.
So this is
Thank
this
you.
The great work.
this
too.
is what I want.
Thank
This is
you.
what I want to say in closing. Martha Diaz, as you see here, is a testament to hard work, a testament to being focused, getting her education. There is a place still for education. Being smart is sexy, okay? Don't feel that you have to go out there and you have to sell your body. To quote 50, if your only asset is to be attractive, then you're gonna wind up doing some whole stuff. Okay, so this is what we don't want. You understand? So just be clear. You can be. This is gonna sound really crazy, but you can be whatever you want to be. Okay,
That's right.
and as a woman, you can be whatever you want to be in this world. Okay, so take it from Martha. Follow her lead. Understand this is what it is. Okay. Salute to her, and thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here today.
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you.
Okay.
So much. Thank you.
This is the T Money Podcast joint featuring Ciara Ross and our guest Martha Diaz in the building. Salute to her, and thank you for being here. Peace, 2 fingers.
Peace.
T Money Podcast joint with Ciara.